Today we have reached the big number 50.
5-0, man. It's crazy. 50 episodes.
5-0. And we have Alex Buchanan. He is a bass player here in town, and it's a real good one.
What a way to celebrate. Check it out. Have you ever wanted to pick something else up, Brian? Like,
here's the thing with that. is I'm just still trying to get good at one instrument, and I feel like any time I spend on another instrument is just taking away from that.
Yeah, it just detracts from not being shite at guitar. Yeah,
it's like I want to be a good guitar player.
I don't care about
Or I could be either like a really good guitar player, or I could be like an okay guitar player and then also kind of okay at piano. Like, you know what I mean? I'd rather just go all in on one thing.
I'm curious. So do you think like the musicians that you revere the most, right? Do you think that those musicians are incredible at one particular instrument, or do they tend to be people who are can play multiple instruments but may not be as virtuosic at one particular instrument?
I think there are just different ways to be great at stuff, I guess. So like some people are able to, their skill is I can kind of do a little bit of everything, but some people are the specialist types.
Yeah.
And some people surprise me. Like I brought up Jay Weaver earlier. We all knew him as like a bass player in town and stuff, but he played tuba.
Really? That's cool.
He's a tuba guy. That's where a lot of his stuff comes from too. It's like, okay, so now this one guy we thought did one thing is actually great at multiple things. And I feel like that's the thing with Nashville. People are secretly great at things.
If you look below the surface, most people here can do a lot more than just one thing. But I think also I think it gives you a way in with music. Whereas, like, I like to be ass at all instruments equally, you know?
Yeah.
But some people, but you're like a songwriter. That's like
true,
your thing. So I feel like, to me, if I was like a songwriter or a composer, or like that was my focus, was just like creating things, like I could see why it would be beneficial. Like, you don't really need to be really good at one instrument.
Yeah, that's true. That's what you're for.
Exactly. You just hire people who are really good at their instruments to play your songs with you. So I could see, like, if that was your kind of specialization, why it would be better.
That makes sense, yeah.
Better to be okay at a bunch of different shit. Because I could see, like, different instruments could kind of, like, inspire you in different ways and kind of give you
and they allow you to, like, think of music in ways that if you were just sitting at home woodshedding on bass or guitar or trombone or whatever, you might not have that. Yeah.
Well, and those are different, like, positions you can get hired for too. Like, if you're a bass player, you're not really asked to do much else because, that's the one thing you want to be the same the whole time.
Everyone needs a bass player.
And like, if a band is full of multi-instrumentalists, even if everybody's great, you probably want to keep the drummer and the bass player the same so that there's, like, that kind of through line. But there are guys in bands that are, like, have, like, the battle station, they play keys, acoustic guitar, sing a bunch, like, so, like, there's room for everybody in that way. I feel like from my perspective, at least, like, you can be okay at everything, but if you're okay at singing, you're going to get work forever kind of thing.
I think there are some people who are just really good at everything.
Yeah. That's a real frustrating thing.
I must be nice, but that's never been me. I have to try as hard as I can to be okay at one thing, so it's...
Oh, totally.
Huh?
You're pretty good at guitar.
He sucks.
But that's it.
You only say that because you're his wife. He sucks.
Exactly.
He played piano, and he was like actually pretty good in piano for first time.
Yeah, well, I know music enough to, like, stumble my way through something.
I always think one of the things that when I think of different instruments, there are certain things like we were talking about earlier, like with what are the hardest instruments to learn. I do think anything that kind of involves your mouth, so like woodwinds, brass, that can be kind of alien for people. But I also think there's something to most people, and I talk about this all the time with the kids I teach. We're so accustomed to using our hands together with things, and like just everyday activities in life, right? We use our hands in tandem constantly. And I find any instrument, even like a piano, where, obviously both hands on a piano are performing the same mechanic. They're playing notes on a piano, but we have to separate the mind in that way. Anything where that's occurring, I think, can be very difficult for people. So like, trumpet, yes, it's hard because you're having to deal with a mouthpiece, and any brass instrument like that's going to be tricky, but you're really, you're focusing on whatever your fingering hand is for your buttons, right? Whereas like if you're a guitar player or a bass player, or you play cello or anything like that, and again, this goes beyond just string instruments, anything where your hands are having to do two wholly different mechanics, I think that throws people because we're just not used to it. Right.
And it's not as if we are biologically inclined to put steel against wood to make sounds. We kind of have to like force ourselves to get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing too, is like the physical nature of playing an instrument isn't really like thought about in like when you're playing a lot of like the more pop culture based instruments, I guess. Because like I took piano lessons for a little bit in community college, and was a horrible student back then. But a big thing about it too is like a lot of the stuff was like you got to sit like this, your hands have to be like this, and you have to keep your posture together in a way that a guitar player teacher is not really going to tell you,
Yeah.
They should, though, to be
They
honest.
should.
They really, they should.
That's something I've been dealing with a lot because I started having like issues.
I find too, it sounds silly, but like even just the idea of standing up when you're playing, at a certain point you don't think about it. Like if you've been playing an instrument long enough, it's not really, you're not going to be worrying like, oh shit, I've been sitting down this whole time learning the song. It's not going to enter your mind in that way. But especially I think if you're younger or if you've been playing for less time, getting accustomed to the feel of the instrument in your hand when you're seated versus standing, again, whatever instrument that is, I think it does kind of change the equation a little bit. And so I think it's a good thing to practice, as silly as it sounds, practice how you're going to perform. Like if you're sitting down, standing up, whatever it is. Yeah.
Totally. Because, you're literally using different muscle groups. As soon as you stand, your hand is not here. It's like here, or it's doing something else. So you're using different muscles that you weren't training when you were learning a song or however.
And like with like classical guitar, I find that that's so important. Just posture, just the way that you actually interact with the instrument. It's so regimented, but it works. You know what I mean? Like I do wish I had some better
I
habits.
was specifically looking a lot into classical guitar technique because I was getting like some pain in my hand and like back pain when I think I just spent years like fucking hunched over. You know what I mean? So I delved into like
Quasimodoing it.
how do I do this like properly if I was like getting taught classical at a conservatory or something. And there's definitely. Yeah, that should be stressed more because there is a lot of things that like I don't do exactly the classical way now, but I kind of like put my guitar up with my strap so it's not like.
How do you? Okay, this is a detour. I'm sorry, Brian. How do you feel about when you're playing an instrument? This is for you too. Where do you like your instrument? High, low, somewhere in the middle? Because I'm a freak. I like it high as possible. I want it up here when I'm playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like with bass, I'm fairly low slung about the whole thing, not like Ramones stuff, my hand can still reach everything. But I think, because the general wisdom is like, set your strap where you're sitting. That way when you stand up, it's right, same place. I feel like when it comes to bass, I feel like it's good not to have too much access to playing a bunch of notes. Don't make it too easy on yourself, sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes it. You don't want to like accidentally play too much, just basically.
Well, for sure. And I think just kind of like the way your hands will hit the string, because that's different. You'll kind of see more jazz fusiony than you would be just like
that
going out
sense.
Playing songs.
Higher up is definitely like easier to play. I think.
And it's also
it doesn't look as cool.
I know.
Hey, looking cool is important. Or feeling cool.
Yeah.
Feeling cool is
that's
important.
part of the this is part of the thing I think about like rock music, right? And don't get me wrong, I do love rock music, but so much of it is just the attitude. And it's like there's nothing like you can have a great rock band, but if you're not watching a rock band on stage, you don't care. Like you want a rock band to be a rock band, not just sonically. You want them to sort of encapsulate that. It's like, you want to know that like, Mick Jagger's out there trashing hotel rooms. You know what I mean? Like you need that in the world, I think, in some way.
I don't know if you need it, but
I think it depends on like what your energy is, right? Like Weezer shouldn't be Guns N' Roses, no matter how hard they try, kind of thing.
And they aren't, so it's okay. Do you want something to drink, man? We got beer. We got these guys. We got, I don't know what's in there.
Plain old water.
We got just if you want to be.
I'll have a beer.
Oh,
we're hanging with the boys.
Okay.
We're letting loose. We're chilling out.
I love it. I just think that again, there's a place for all this stuff. There's definitely a place for all this stuff. Oh, thank you so much, Lex.
Thank you, sir. There is something to like the classical technique. So like a couple things I discovered, and it applies to whether you have your guitar high or low, right? Because if you have it low, like one big thing is like the angle of your wrist. Like if you have it low, your wrist is like this, right? Whereas it like if you watch classical guitar players, they have it like on their left leg and it's like up, and then so your wrist is straighter, right? So that's like pretty big. And then the other thing too is like I just trying to have like as little tension as possible, like anywhere in your body. So if you have your guitar on like this leg, you have to like put this shoulder up like that to like put your hand in the right spot. But then if you have your guitar up, then both shoulders are like,
oh, that makes absolute sense.
And that's something I like never really thought of until I started like figuring out how to play that way. And then like it actually does make a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I think also that kind of stuff, it's so many of those players, they play for years. And I think a lot of that is calibrated towards longevity and being able to do something like that just being able to have that wear on your body for that long a period of time. I mean, because as silly as it sounds, like that stuff does wear on you. If you're a bass player, I mean, you're a guitar player, just having to carry that weight for however many years, it does. It adds up, So I think having those that's one thing I wish I was better at, is having those good physical habits when I'm playing.
I would,
I like. Mine aren't atrocious. I don't mean it like that, but like it's just I should pay more attention to it.
Because it comes back to because I didn't have any pain for years, and then just recently I started getting like super bad back pain when I was playing, and then I just kind of all started falling apart. I'm like, oh man, I need to fix some shit.
Well, that's how stuff like that goes, though. They say you can only lose your hearing once. In that same way, you're feeling fine until you're not feeling fine. And then you got to figure out how to feel a little better than that after that point.
That's one thing I think about constantly, and I'm so bad with
your hearing?
Yeah, and I try... What? No. And I do try to be aware of it, but it's just... Because I'm just constantly around music all the time, and I'm sure you know the same thing. It's like it's this constant battle of like, okay, I know that I've got to be cautious here, but also I want to be able to hear what. Yeah,
I want to have fun.
Yeah, I want to have fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, I know like once you fuck your hearing up, like it doesn't come back at all.
Do you guys have there's a word for it, but do you guys have ringing?
Like tinnitus?
Yeah, you have tinnitus. Yeah, I have it bad.
When I was in high school and like part way through college, I was like in loud like pop, like punk bands and shit. Like and I used to spend hours at a time practicing loud ass music in a tiny little room, and I think that really did some damage.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say same here. Grew up listening a lot of death metal back when I was in high school and stuff. So like going out to the metal clubs or the VFW halls.
Try and get like a fist away from me.
Fist away? It's like that? Okay.
You were into the metal stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's killer.
Yeah, my uncle actually, before I was born, he was playing in drums in death metal bands. So like it was always kind of around, so I was desensitized to it pretty quickly. But the thing is, I was listening to that stuff till about a little bit after I graduated high school, and then I was like, okay, maybe there's more to music than being loud and upset. That could be.
I still love
it's
some
still
of that.
cool,
I do too, but there's just more to the world.
That's
true. But yeah, that being said though, since then hearing is like I hear things fine, but the ringing is there. It's a reminder of like, okay, clock's ticking.
We lost power obviously over the last week. We had it gone for a few days. And in the house, there's always noises going on when you're going to sleep. I can also conk out whenever. Like, I'm just one of those people. There's like once every like 2 years, I'll get a night's sleep where I just can't do it. But 99% of the time, I'm out like a light. But everything in the house went out, so like we didn't have any like fans going or no, like we've got like I've got like air filters or whatever for the house because I live in like an old house. Everything was out, so it was just dead quiet.
Yeah, it's weird.
I laid in bed that first night, and I was like, fuck. I just like it's, you know what I mean? Like when you hear how bad your hearing is, because I'm never in silence ever. I'm just constantly with noise around me all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty rare you're in actual like silence.
And I just laid in that bed and I thought, shit.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing is like once you remember you've got hearing problems, you're never gonna forget it for a while.
I used to have like you can get like special earplugs designed for music.
Really?
And you can get ones that only take so I used to have these ones you put an insert in them that is like how many decibels it reduces what you hear by. So you can just make it really mild, like you have like 5 decibels down just a little bit, or like 10 decibels. So you can have earplugs and it protects your hearing, but it doesn't like fuck up the sound.
I might need to invest in something like that.
And they like mold them to your ears and everything.
Yeah, I've never had anything. That's probably why I
lost them, but they're worth it if you're around loud music frequently.
They're worth it until you lose them, and then you got paid for 2. It's like, $500 earplugs. Oh,
I don't think they were that much. I forget how much they were.
Yeah, okay, I'll look into that. That's a good. How did you fare in the storm in the great winter of 2026?
Man, I'll be honest, everyone at home, it was a really nice time. Our house didn't lose any heat. We didn't lose any power or anything.
Bastard. Just get out.
I know.
Yeah, we were fine here too.
We had a tree fall on a power line in our front yard, but even that didn't turn off the power or anything. So we just we're just waiting for EMS to come through and scoop that along.
Nice.
We'll see. But yeah, it was pretty easy for the household though. We housed a couple people. Obviously, I saw a ton of stories of, well, I'm in my car for the 3rd night in a row kind of thing. So luckily we didn't have to deal with any of that. But holding strong, you know.
That's good. I'm jealous. Honestly, it wasn't bad for us. We had fun. Like it was kind of, it's always like I remember being a kid and the power would go. I remember one time when we lived in Maryland when I was growing up, we had the power go out for days. And like we thought it was the coolest thing in the world. We're like, we're like going camping in our own house. You know? And like that's all I kept telling myself with this time. It was like, you're just going camping, dude. Like just it's all good. It's gonna come back on eventually.
Well, and sharing things with other people changes the experience. Like if you're in a cold house by yourself, darkest time of your life.
Nothing fun about that.
By day 3, I was like, okay, fuck this. Can we please have the power come back on?
Right. Whereas I share the house with a bunch of people, so we were able to kind of collaborate together and figure out how to get through it in our own ways.
That's good.
Man, yeah. Something you said about just a second event of being just like locked in the house for a period of time, and we all can agree that it was a weird time. We had to deal with it, sort of thing.
Oh my god, yeah. And we're in a kind of crappy, old, not very well insulated house. And I remember I woke up the second day, and it was like 30 degrees in the house, and I was like, I got out of bed, and you could see your breath in the house.
Dark.
I was like, okay, this is probably not good for. It's probably not good.
Damn.
We ended up staying a night in Margaritaville. It was hilarious. Well, because we no one cares about this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So we I think it was like day 3. We didn't have power, and we said, you know what, we're gonna do like a night, and because we had friends we could like stay with. We're like, we're gonna do a night in a hotel. It'll be like nice. It'll be fun. We'll like find a dog friendly hotel we can do. So we booked something. It was like downtown because everything else was booked up. We pull up, and as we pull up, we got a text that our power was back on. I'm like, awesome, fantastic, right? So we're like, you know what? Let's drive back to the house just to see, and if we need to, we can always come back. And drive back to the house, no power at all. It's like everything up to the park, and then like our few blocks, and then like further east is back on, but there's like our segment that is still out. So I'm like, okay, shit. So
back to Margaritaville.
So I was like, okay, we're gonna go back to this hotel. And then as we were gonna leave, we got a text from them that they had overbooked the hotel, and now like we got nothing. So okay, so we were actually like in the driveway to go. So we ended up doing Margaritaville was doing like, I don't remember, like $99 hotel rooms or something, which was, we were like, you know what? All right. We were going to have a nice like getaway hotel night. Let's do Margaritaville for $99, whatever. And so we show up to Margaritaville and it was fucking awesome. Margaritaville, I'm not kidding. The nicest like chain hotel I've ever stayed in.
Really?
Yeah, this is
that's the one. It's on like Fifth Ave or something.
Yeah,
right?
it's like right downtown.
Yeah,
It's
like by the Martins over there.
Yeah, it was actually fantastic. It was really great. I mean, it was also, they were doing like a special, like I said. So like we got like, you know, a $300+ hotel room for pretty, you know, for a good price. But
that's cool.
I was like, Margaritaville kind of slaps. They gave you like a couple free margaritas. You're like, this is awesome. Man, this is nice. So it
nice.
actually ended up being not bad.
Wasting away again.
Exactly. And you know what? I can always get down with some Jimmy Buffett. So
Of course.
yeah,
What a guy. I think I know very little about Jimmy Buffett's music in the grand scheme of things. I knew
man.
Margaritaville, I knew Cheeseburger in Paradise, and then I had heard My Feet Stink, the long title, and I'm like, okay, maybe I do understand this guy more than I thought I did.
He's got some bangers. I remember one time, this was years ago, Brian and I had a friend from college come to visit. And like she really wanted to go down to Broadway and check it out. And so we're like, let's go down and like let's kind of just have fun and see what's like, because we never go down there, you know?
Yeah.
Just as like tourists. And we went to Margaritaville, and there was a bunch of us friends hanging out. And we got into Margaritaville, and there's first of all, no Jimmy Buffett's playing. There's a guy on stage with like an acoustic guitar who's playing like Christian singer-songwriter stuff, which that's cool. But like I'm in Margaritaville wanting to get drunk, like
Trying to waste away,
some Buffett.
And I remember like going up to the guy and being like, how much to play some Jimmy Buffett? And he's like, I don't know any Jimmy Buffett. I'm like, dude, you're playing Margaritaville right now. I remember we had one round of margaritas, and it was like, you know,
That should be a requirement to play there.
Yeah.
At least a handful of Buffett covers.
At least give me like, you know, yeah, Cheeseburger in Paradise, like you said. Mm-hmm. And so I remember we had one round of margaritas, and all of us were like, let's just go make margaritas at home. And so we stopped at the liquor store on the way, and I don't remember the rest of the day. But
So you made your own Margaritaville.
we made our own Margaritaville.
Funny
Blasted Jimmy
related
Buffett.
story. I feel like that's common here in Nashville. Like they just hire whoever the fuck, regardless of like the place. But I was working downtown, and I was walking, and I walked by like the Sinatra's place, the new one, and I never been in there, so I was like, oh, let me just pop my head in and see what this is all about. And then I go in there, it's like some girl playing like some shitty pop version of Country Roads, and it's like, you're not gonna have someone playing jazz and fucking
that's so,
Frank Sinatra's restaurant.
infuriating.
Like, at least try to like
stick with the
theme. You know?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, man. A lot of people don't stick to the theme down there, you know. So certain venues that were open fairly recently also weren't playing very much of the music they were named after either.
It seems like it's just a rotating cast of like, no, don't go wrong, they're very, very talented folks down there playing, but it just seems like the branding and marketing is kind of off from what people want. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe what like people like us want, but
That's
I feel
true,
like
that's
fucking
true.
normies
I guess
just hear that
that's true.
shit and they're like, yeah.
I guess that's true.
That's kind of the thing with like playing for an audience, right? Is like, you know, there's kind of the idea of like give them what they want, sort of thing, which that's kind of an angle people have. Which
I want to talk to you about this.
Oh, yeah,
so
let's
sorry.
go.
So like, how? Don't get me wrong. I am. There is something to getting on or watching someone on stage and having that person serve the audience, where it's this sort of, you know, fun, we're here to give you what you want, kind of like, you know, like yacht rock kind of. Don't get me wrong, there is a place for that in the world, absolutely. And you know, and when I'm drunk in Margaritaville, that's what I want, you know.
Yeah.
But most of the time in my life, that's not the relationship I want with art. You know, like I want you as the artist to offer me something that I can either gladly accept or deny. Does that make sense? It's like most of the time that's the relationship I want with art. And like for you, especially I wanted to ask you this, especially as like a sideman, how do you feel about that whole dynamic, that whole exchange with a performer on stage and an audience in front of them?
I think when it comes to giving people exactly what they want, there will be times where that's just kind of the nice thing to do, you know, like why not sort of thing. I'll say as far as my own perspective, despite, you know, sidemanning and doing kind of whatever gigs are around to some degree, I'm pretty selfish about what I like about music. You know, I kind of just want to do stuff I think is cool with people I think are cool. I've taken gigs every now and again where just like, you know, got nothing going on, you know, fill up the schedule, make a little bit of money. But generally speaking, I'm not even honestly really too concerned with like what off stage is going on, you know, like I want the people to the right of me on stage to be having a good time and for that to kind of fall over to the people in front of the stage, you know?
That makes absolute sense.
I think when I think about stuff like that, it's very much like, okay, the singer is kind of more, or the person who's first name, last name, it's kind of more their prerogative to make people happy in a way that I don't necessarily have, you know. To a degree, I'll play along because, you know, you don't want to be the curmudgeon being like, I don't want to play Country Roads because it's stupid. And it's like, well, it is kind of stupid sometimes. But, you know, at the same time, it's also not always the worst thing in the world to make people happy. So it's case by case, but I tend to be pretty much like the audience doesn't know what they want till you give it to them kind of thing.
I think there's like a difference between like music as entertainment, like you see down on Broadway, and then music as art, right? Like I think what they're doing down there on Broadway is just a different thing. It's not art. It's just they're entertaining people, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different than like artists putting their art out there.
Yeah, and entertainment can be art too. I mean, you know,
there's crossover for sure.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily think that motives per se preclude something from being art. You know, like you can really just be in it for money and attention and still make worthwhile art in its own way. You can stumble upon making art, I guess.
I think it's I want to be able to compartmentalize in that way, Brian, but I think it's messier than that because I think that, like, you know, if I think of actually, I don't know, it's a very hard thing to parse for myself because I think there are times in history where these things have overlapped. There's times where they've been torn apart. Like if you think, like, just take jazz in, you know, like the late 50s, early 60s in this country. That would, you know, that is the great American art form, or one of the great American art forms, and yet it was, you know, it was a very successful business model, and it was something that sold records. It was something that people could label and make a profit from. So it's like, okay, something like that in that moment. And then it kind
of turns into cheap entertainment.
Yeah, and then it does.
Later in that era, there was a lot of like,
absolutely, like elevator jazz, or like that popped out. Yeah, and I think that's true of like anything. You know, you could make the same comparison with, like, you know, the great folk revival scare of like the late 50s, early 60s. It's like we had people who were really trying to, and not that one of these things is better than the other, but, you know, you had some people who were really trying to rejuvenate and sort of represent early American music in a way that was, as they saw it, accurate to the form, and then other people who were turning that into like pop hits. So it's like, I just think it is so messy because it's hard to tell where those lines, and you can have people, to your point, who like your goal is to be making as many dollar bills as possible. But if you're good enough, it's somehow art too. You know what I mean? Like it gets so, I don't know. It's a very messy thing, and it's hard for me to be able to pull those things apart because I think I want to be able to simplify it in those terms, but I don't know why I can't do that.
Well, and you know, obviously you're a person who plays, you're a multi-instrumentalist in your way too, but you also kind of come from it from like you write songs and you sing songs, and like your creations are what they are in that way. So going downtown and just playing songs because a lot of people like them or whatever can kind of feel more transactional, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know singers definitely have had struggles with that whenever I'll like talk to some of them about that whole process, how that sort of works. For background for me, right? Like I've been playing music since like 5th grade, through like concert bands in school. I was in marching band in high school, then doing bands. I know. I came in here with my collared shirt and my sweater, and you probably thought it was a
cool cat,
real hard knocks guy. But that being said, that, you know, you find yourself in a situation like that, or other sorts of art like theater or anything like that, and, you know, the performance itself even if it's not something you worked on or created, you're reading lines or whatever, you in that moment expressing kind of how that stuff is art in its own way.
Yeah.
So like I think as far as like, so I'm able to kind of see it a little bit easier in that way, but I also, as far as like doing downtown stuff, that's all like boot camp for me. You know, that's me sharpening the axe because you know that's the way you get better at these things. Is you just spend a lot of time.
Yeah, so much of it is just hours clocked in. Like so much of it is just the
It's
amount
hours,
of time.
but it's like it's not just the time; it's the kind of time you're putting into it. You know, because just like if you have like a crappy job and you go in, clock in, scroll on your phone for a little while. You might do a little bit of what your job is, but you know, you're running the clock, you know. It's very easy for us to kind of see work as that. But if you're saying but when you're down there too much and it is just all work all the time, there's kind of no point to a certain degree because there's easier ways to make more money than
for sure.
hang out in loud places and learn the infinite amount of songs people want you to know. So it's got to be a little bit more than that for me, I guess.
Yeah.
I do like the mechanical nature of learning songs and trying to be better as a performer, but it's not necessarily like the thing I want to do all the time.
What do you find is, how long did it take you to get acclimated to the sort of the Nashville, the 2026 Nashville songbook? You know what I mean? To like feel like, okay, I got the grasp on the repertoire that the stuff that I know is going to be requested, the stuff that I know, and I don't even just mean in sort of a Broadway setting, but I just the stuff that, like, you know, if I'm playing bass for, you know, whomever this particular rock or country gig or what have you, that okay, I know X, Y, and Z are getting called. Like, how long did it take you to get a grasp on that?
I could probably let you know that in a couple of years when I feel like I do. I feel like I'm always learning some of the most obvious stuff in the world, you know,
that's
like
all of us.
what was the one Waylon tune, Ain't Living Long Like This. I'd never played it till like 2 months ago, you know, and that's one of those things that for a lot of people that is a common song, but you know, I think especially for me, I wanted to do more research before coming in Nashville, but then like the circumstances that ended up me actually getting down here happened a lot quicker than I expected it to. So I kind of throw myself in the deep end a lot of the time when it comes to like downtown thing or just learning songs in general. I feel like I kind of have, since I moved to town, I've had like moments where I got a lot better than I was the day before. And that's probably happened like 4 or 5 times, but I still don't necessarily, I'm not going to say I'm confident with any sort of songbook, you know, for the majority of things. I feel like I'm just learning too. I feel like I'm just sort of just now starting to really figure some of this stuff out.
Where were you before Nashville?
Well, I'm from Ohio. I'm from like the Cleveland area. So I was in Northeast Ohio pretty much growing up all the way up until 2023 when I moved down here. But yeah, I was doing a little bit of music up there. But I wasn't doing a ton in between college and 21. There was a lot of life stuff, and I just kind of like wasn't able to keep track. You know, it was tough to maintain, especially in like a Rust Belt state, trying to play music all the time. Like, I didn't want to join a Grateful Dead cover band, so like there wasn't really much option as far as I saw it at the time. But then, you know, certain global events happened around 2020, and I was like, okay, it's been a couple of years since I really played music. If we get out of this and society is mostly normal, I got to figure that out. Yeah. So, then 2021 happened. I started playing country music more. I played out of state for the first time, like March of that year, and then it's just kind of been a lot of work and a lot of catching up since then. So I don't know. It's a long way to say I don't know as far as like feeling comfortable on knowing what to do. I feel like I'm figuring it out.
Who were the, cause so now, I mean, I know you really as a bass player around town, as I think most people here do. Who are the people, who are the bass players as a young person that kind of caught your attention, or who are those first people who you really saw the instrument through?
I'd say very first it was like a lot of like late 60s, early 70s guys like Jack Bruce from Cream, John Paul Jones. They were kind of big ones for me. As a kid, I was really into Stone Temple Pilots also.
Nice.
Their bass player, Robert DeLeo, he's got a very Motown thing going on that you wouldn't really know hearing through all the heavy guitars and stuff. But then, like, around when I was graduating high school, that's when I got into Jamerson and McCartney and Carol Kay, you know, the big three as far as stuff like that goes. And then, I don't know, since switching to country music, I feel like a lot of the bass players are like current people, you know what I mean? I'm not necessarily, like, I know who Bob Moore is, and I've obviously heard a lot of his recordings, but...
I just realized I don't think I could name a single country bass player.
There aren't a ton. There aren't a ton.
I'm sure there are a lot. I just...
Well,
I feel like there's no, like popular... You know, rock has, like, the bass stars that everybody kind of knows. I feel like
Same
country
with
doesn't...
jazz, yeah.
And jazz. I feel like country doesn't really have that in the same way. Maybe I'm just not...
Well, I think a lot of it, too, is just, like, kind of how, like, the idea of a rhythm section kind of evolves over time. Like, nowadays, rhythm section people are a lot more active because, like, there are less people who are playing country music all the time, and they come from country music to play it kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are for, like, guitar players and steel players, but usually, as far as rhythm section people go... Drummers will either be like rock drummers going to country or jazz drummers going to country. Mm-hmm. And bass players, it's kind of a similar thing with it's either rock, jazz, or like Motown soul type stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're kind of seeing that more often nowadays as far as like really active superstar bass player kind of stuff. Even though the stuff is there the whole time, but just kind of like, especially like the working class of country music is just a little different than it used to be, I guess.
Yeah.
Since a lot of it is like scrappier, a lot of it is frankly more punk.
Scrappier, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, because you know a lot of them we're playing like metal clubs, we're playing house shows, we're doing all this stuff hardcore punk bands were doing when you're in high school, but you're in your like mid-30s and you're playing country music and stuff. So it kind of feels like a little bit more lawless right now, which I think is super interesting. That's kind of what got me into the stuff. Is like it just feels like there's more to do. I guess there's more room to grow. Like. I used to kind of just think country music was just kind of one thing.
Yeah.
But then I became educated and I'm like, oh, it's like saying rock is just one thing. Like, what is rock? Does rock have guitars? Usually. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes it's like a synth band. Sometimes it's like a heavy metal band of all synthesizers or something like that.
It's a pretty broad genre.
And country's the same way I've found.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think most genres are like that. Like, one of the things that I've... done relatively recently with my kids at work is I was playing them a bunch of music from all sorts of different genres, and I would ask them, okay, what style of music is this, right? And most of them can decipher, okay, this is jazz or this is country or this is rock, you know. And obviously there's some kids that's going to go over their head, but if you listen to enough stuff, you can kind of get your bearings with that sort of thing. But then you ask, okay, why is that country? Or why is that bluegrass music? Or why is that rock and roll? Or why is that jazz? Or what have you? And it's like all of a sudden, it's all gone. Like you have no... What do you mean? It's just that well, that's what country music sounds like. Or that's what, and it's really interesting how... and so then it's kind of a fun exercise in being able to give those people the tools to figure out why that, whether it's instrumentation or whether it's harmony or what the myriad of things that it could possibly be. But I feel like that's most people's relationship with different styles of music is it's just, well, that's this bucket over here.
Yeah.
And when you actually look under the hood, that's not how any of it works. It's all interconnected. It's all messy. It all bleeds into itself in different ways, you know? And again, I'm sure that's just part of the difference between being someone who's, you know, your life is music and that's what you do versus someone who just turns on the radio and is going to buy the latest Taylor Swift album or, well, you know, I just use that as like a stand-in for whatever, but like that's not what most people's relationship to music is, but that's fine.
Yeah, and in genre in general is kind of like an interesting thing to think about in the modern age, right? Like,
oh yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
Because genre, like, you know, back when like we're like classifying things as one thing or another, it was back in the day where this stuff costs money. You know, you had to pay money for a vinyl record. If you're trying out something for the first time, you may not know what Mott the Hoople is, right? But it's in the rock bin, so maybe I'll like that. You know?
Yeah.
But that doesn't really like hold up as much. One, when like buying music isn't as much of a thing, or two, recording music and having to pay for it isn't always as much of a thing anymore with like home recording and stuff. A lot of people make their own songs on their own computers, whatever they want it to be, and they don't have to say it's anything.
That's so funny. I've never thought of it. So, you know, I think of genre through a different lens, in the sense I think of it through like a historical lens, where I never really thought about it in the sense that you're talking about, which is just its relationship to the market, right? Which is like with anything, if you're selling something, people need to know what they're buying, right? That's that's a really great point, because I always think of it as, you know, just the other, you know, the whole box of other reasons, that Pandora's box that you open of the history of music in terms of geography, in terms of just basic exposure to music, what one segment of people is exposed to versus another, you know, all of those different things. But a lot of it is just that. A lot of it is just, okay, what are we going to label this if we want someone to buy it?
Yeah, you need like a group of people to market that.
Yeah.
Whereas like back in the day when all there was just the album cover to look at. You know, you have to have some way to describe it for people to like be like, yeah, I want to hear that.
Right, and I think as far as like how we have it nowadays, I feel like as far as we have it nowadays, there's kind of like a couple different ways you can look at genre. It's either like, okay, I want it to be this, so what does my art have to be considered this? So then you get like your traditionalists, your kind of people who have like a personal mission to uphold a style of music as is a certain way, or you use it like you're making meals or whatever, and you take little bits of it, like, I like this ingredient, but what if I put it with this sort of thing, you know? And like genre just becomes like what bucket of stuff you're gonna grab to make your thing.
I mean, I love, so I went to school for American roots music, hence Roosic. Like I love traditional American music, and I tend to look at it through more of that historical lens, and it's very interesting that we're living in a time where that's kind of all out the window now, because we all have this magic box in our pocket that has access to every bit of recorded music that has ever been made in the last 120 plus years, you know, which is insane. And so it's like all of those barriers, all of those things are just totally out the window. And so I think, again, like I would rather live in that world. I'd rather live in the world where we have access in that way. I think it's the most amazing thing in the world. But it's fascinating to think about where music is going to go, because I don't know how genre is going to be contained in the future. You know, kind of to your point, like I don't know what those things are that are going to, what the glue is going to be that holds different types of music together.
I don't think there needs to be.
I don't think there does either. I
think it still will, to an extent, for the same purpose of like some people like this. So there's like the pop music, and people want to market that to that group of people or whatever. But like, it's, you don't need. Genre is not I find anything that like falls perfectly into the confines of like a genre is like usually shit I don't really like that much anyways. Like all the best stuff kind of blurs the lines a little. Yeah.
Right, and then you can kind of loop it back to respecting performance almost, to a sense of like, oh, well, they're doing this thing 98% accurately to how it was done however many years ago. Yeah. And there's a skill to that, but I'm not personally interested in pursuing stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I'm more open to just kind of falling on face and sort of seeing what stuff works. Because I don't know, that's what a lot of the cool people you look up to nowadays were doing. You know, a lot of them weren't in their beds at night worrying about, oh my God, what if it's not country enough? What if it's not rock enough? You know, like.
Yeah, and there's something to, like, just today I was listening in the car earlier today. I was listening to some record of medieval songs that recorded on, like, you know, replicas of medieval instruments, just stupid shit like that, which historically I think is fascinating, because I want to hear these songs. I want to hear them just as a student of history. I'm curious as to what those things sounded like at that time, the connections to older music, etc. But it to your point, it's just, it feels weird if you're gonna that box can be very restricting for a creative person. You know, like nobody wants to, or I shouldn't say nobody, but I don't find that most people want to be confined in such a way. But again, there's still, I mean, I still love it. I love, there's nothing cooler than like listening to a ragtime band playing traditional ragtime music the way it would have been, or, you know, or insert whatever, you know, like I still think there's something really cool to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there's just something important to that too, because a lot of that stuff is like, again, just from my kind of background with music, a lot of that stuff gets lost. I mean, we just don't have a lot of music that I wish we did have, and so I think that there is something important to those, you know, torchbearers continuing those traditions. I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think it can get messy when people feel handcuffed to it. You know what I mean? When people feel like, okay, there's an expectation here that I can't creatively work outside of that. And so I think
I think you can also be handcuffed in the opposite direction though, like where you feel everything has to like be this new.
It's got to change the world.
I feel I was stuck in that mindset for a really long time. Like in my college years and shortly after, whereas like I felt like everything I had to do had to be this new thing, and if that guy played that lick once, I could, you know, get rid of that, and like I had everything I had to do had to be innovative, and then like I just realized it just doesn't fucking matter that much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, and especially like if you're trying to make like a career off of being creative to a certain degree. I know it's probably not a good idea to go up to your interview for like your 8th album and be like, it's just another one. We got some songs, you know. You got to kind of sell it in a certain degree, but you know, I think that's part of like having a relationship with music is that sometimes it's just like, well, I didn't really break the mold in this one. I think I got a couple good ones in here though, and then ship it out.
I think
sort
there's
of thing.
nothing wrong with like, you know, just playing some. Yeah, things that are cliche for a reason, right?
I always think too that for myself, the sandbox I'm playing in, which is American music, right? Through its entire life, there's a lot in there. You got jazz, you got country, you got ragtime, you got medicine show music, you got all of it, and there's a lot of stuff in that sandbox. But I find that if you're sitting there thinking, how do I make this new thing that nobody has created before, you're not really going to get anywhere. I find that I have to go back to the well, and I have to say, okay, what is all of this stuff that's come before me? And all you're really doing is, because at the end of the day, you're just recycling the same bits, right? And so what I find is what the stuff that propels us into the future is oftentimes those people who can go back to the well and synthesize something new from those components. And those people who can find, okay, over here, there's this stuff from this body of music that I want to take, and there's this stuff from this body of music that I want to take, and somehow you sort of Frankenstein this new thing that does push you into the future and does create something that didn't exist before, but you're only synthesizing out of materials that are already there, in my mind, right? And that's kind of how I think all of these things work. And when I look at all of the artists that I think are the most that have broken the mold in American music the most, that's all that they're doing is they're very, it's not like they can snap their fingers and all of a sudden there is something new in the world. They can take in, it's like they have better filters, if that makes sense. They can take in all of this other stuff and synthesize something different, right? And that is something that I have just immense respect for, and I think that is a skill set that I really admire in people, because it's very, very difficult to be able to creatively do that. And it's not just, you know, it goes beyond songwriters. I mean, that's instrumentalists do that. Everyone who has that relationship to music, I think, is capable of doing that. But it's very hard. I don't know exactly how to crack that code, you know?
Right. I think probably even like thinking that there is a code is probably already one of those things where like...
Yeah, it's a pitfall.
Don't see the forest through the trees kind of thing. I think when it comes to music for me, I've been kind of thinking of it like we kind of talk about like the language of music a lot, right? Like music is how we communicate with each other. How are we learning new things to say? Usually you kind of hear it offhand, like someone says like a new word or uses a new phrase. So you're like, oh, that's cool. You try it out in a few social circles, blows up, you use a word wrong.
Definitely not use that one.
Yeah.
But eventually you're able to kind of stumble onto one, and then your vocabulary grows and you hopefully have something new to say,
Yeah.
And
like imagine if you thought that way about like speaking English, like, oh, everything I has to say, everything I say has to be a completely original idea, you know what I mean? Like,
that'll just be
it
gibberish.
just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like,
as far as like communicating with people, we have these sort of guidelines, like however many letters, and in music it's however many notes. We can only do so much with 12 pitches that we as the Western world agreed are the 12 pitches we're going to use.
And yet still there is just people continue to push into the future, which I think is so beautiful. But like that, it's any time that someone can do that, I think that's one of the things in music that I'm probably most impressed by. When people can go back to the well and find a way of creating something new,
Yeah, for sure. And I think especially as far as like singers go, or let's say like songwriters go, like people are in different places. Some people are in a place where they need to do as you said and just really try and throw out the entire board and start completely fresh in their own way. Some people have specific things they want to get accomplished stylistically or sonically or whatever, and just kind of meeting people, like the artists where they're at, is a big thing, especially because my preferred thing is just side stuff. I don't really do a ton of writing on my own or anything like that. I'm usually kind of like seeing on the outside what's going on with a person's songwriting or what musicians are going on, and kind of seeing where they're at. And
I find
What's up,
Kitty, what's up, dude?
Kitty's
what's
here
up
for the 50th celebration.
There we go, guys. We didn't even point out the fact that we've got the big balloons here, guys. Yeah,
it's number 50.
Do they look nice and framed in the background? Or we oh yeah, there we go. I'm glad
she's
that's
kind
really
of a psycho.
Oh, she's the best.
I'm gonna try to pick her up. We'll see how that goes. Fair enough.
It's like no.
I won't get picked up either.
I'm gonna put her in the other room.
So who at this point do you kind of have your rotation of artists that you play with regularly, and like how large is that catalog of folks?
That's a good question. I tried this out, like listing them out like 8 months ago, and I feel like it's not that different now, but it is kind of different in the sense of like I always have to leave kind of room in my time, I guess, for like the next thing that I can't really expect to happen. I mean, like I've got the downtown thing. I've got very limited interactions with that. I play with my buddy Jim McGuinn when I'm down there a lot. And then artist gig wise, I know probably have like 8 or so people that I like know for sure that they're gonna hit me up for stuff and make music with them. And then sometimes you get the text from someone you've never met before, but it's like a mutual friend of like a mutual friend of an acquaintance or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're playing with them for a while, so I like to leave a little bit of that wiggle room, just because I've only been in town 3 years here in March, so like that's still fairly young in the grand scheme of things, and so much can sort of happen. But like I definitely have my people that I like to put my time for and supporting, because I just believe in what they're doing and stuff.
Do you think that like so of that kind of core group of folks that you find yourself playing with more regularly, is there are there different approaches that you kind of take as a sideman to all of those things in terms of catalog and the kind of music they're playing, et cetera, or do you kind of approach it all with the same mindset?
I like to kind of take situations as they are, especially just because certain people as artists kind of want or don't want certain things. I've worked with people who are very much like, let me do everything. You just show up and play the song and be a good hang. Yeah, like, I'll handle getting song the set lists out to people, do all that stuff. I'll play with other people where like, how did my song go? What was the intro to my song? And I kind of help them out in that way.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it'll be more like an emotional, like, you know, like more about like a pep talk sort of thing. So I feel like I'm generally kind of just trying to meet people where they're at. I feel like, especially if you're like interacting with a person on their own art, you don't want to have like a playbook. You don't want to be like, well, this is what I do for everybody. You're going to do this, or I'm not going to play music with you sort of thing. Like, stuff like that takes away the benefits about being an independent individual artist that can make your own calls and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not playing with people who have like label interference or anything right now. It's a lot of, I want to do this because I believe in it. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to play in my band to help me out, sort of thing. So yeah, it's generally case by case. I like to be involved, but if an artist really has their stuff figured out and they just want a guy that does the parts correctly,
Yeah. What do you find,
keep it easy.
for yourself, sort of creatively? Do you find it most fulfilling when you have somebody who has a very clear vision of what they want and expresses that in an articulate way, or do you find it more fulfilling when somebody kind of gives you more of a blank canvas to, all right, just throw whatever you think needs to go on here?
Personally, the latter. I definitely like being kind of like working with something that like, it may not seem right off the bat that this is like a super special thing, but like you kind of get that instinct like, okay, if we have like a dialogue, we can kind of talk about like what can work. I prefer that, but I'm also in a place where I'm young enough into this part of my professional career to where like if people want to take me under their wing and kind of show me the business as far as like kind of how their stuff goes, I'm more than happy to take cues from that, you know. Like a big guy for that for me is Mose Wilson. He was someone that
Another Roosic alum.
Oh yeah, I know a good chunk of them. How could you not, you know? But he's definitely one of those guys for me where like, you know, he's been doing it for a while. He's doing a lot of the stuff tangentially that I would want to do. Like I don't particularly have much interest in like artist stuff, but like as far as like band leading, I really like the idea of being like an MD for artists and stuff. And I kind of fall for that in like unofficial ways, but like doing that and then maybe someday getting into producing. So like that's the kind of thing where like I need to see how the sausage is made in more of a way other than I want to do it because I've got ideas or whatever, you know, like seeing how that stuff happens is really important. And
For sure, yeah.
especially in this city, you know, there's just so much of that, you know, there's people with history, with that sort of knowledge.
Yeah, I think it's good to get your hands dirty with that kind of thing and like just get into it and see and have someone guide you and show you that kind of stuff because you can get far with just sort of
gumption,
gumption determination, but no, there's definitely something to having those folks in music that can help guide you and show. I mean, I think that's probably the secret sauce to all of this is just good people showing you. I mean, I think the reason why any of us here probably have not just gotten the skills that we have, but really the love that we have for music is because certain people along the way have kind of helped guide that, you know, and I think that's really important. Like for you, who are some of the people in your life that have really inspired you the most musically or that have given you the most guidance with music?
Oh, man, that could go so many different ways too. Like obviously going back to school, my music teachers are definitely people like that for me, especially growing up. Like it took a while for me to find things I was truly interested in a way that were like I could spend my life doing this sort of thing, you know. I was not very interested in school for the most part, you know. I was a pretty bad student for a while. I kind of figured out how to learn. I think that's described recently.
Everyone who's ever sat in that chair.
God, I hope so. But my band directors were always people that I got that sort of inspiration from. I've been playing music with my buddy Austin Stambaugh since we were kids, since we were going to high school, you know. So like we've always kind of had a working relationship even 15 years ago or however long. So like that's someone who always inspires me with what he's up to. my old frontman back in Ohio, Corey Grinder, who took me on the road back in 2021, that was back when I had no gigs at all. So going from that to a month-long run from Cleveland, Ohio to Texas,
That's
and then
awesome.
back sort of thing. Like, that's the kind of thing where you kind of think, okay, I'm actually sort of doing something somewhat for real kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then coming into town, the two guys who first time in Nashville, didn't know anyone, but were like telling me, dude, you should move out here someday. We're Mose and Chris Weisbecker.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like definitely those guys are big influences for me as far as just making it happen at all sort of thing. And I don't know, just a little bit of everyone, I guess, in the city, It's such a welcoming ecosystem, like...
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of room for mentorship around here if you're looking for it.
Because I think about that a lot. Because again, it's like it's such a hard thing. It's such a hard thing to commit your life to, music, and you have to have those people. Or I find that I have to have those people that have made it. That can kind of show you can do this. Like, it's okay. Mm-hmm. I know it's crazy, but like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Like, when I look back on my life, a lot of the people that have had the biggest influence on me are people in the music world that whether it was my, guitar teacher as a kid, or there's a lot of people in my life that, my guitar teacher, Thomas Mitchell, who's the man. Tom is the man, and like that dude had a big effect on the trajectory of my life. Like Jody Bagley is another guy that I spent a lot of time with as a kid who helped me out, or like Ron Weaver. Like those people, they just sound like names, but like those are the people that made, like, that got this stuff under my skin. Mm-hmm. And there's something to that, because it's, especially when you're like, when you're like 13, 14, 15, and I find that for most of us, that's the time when this stuff gets a hold of you and never lets you go. It's so potent, and you need some crazy people in your life to tell you that no, it's okay. Like, you can do this.
Right. And especially kind of like depends on where you're from too. Like, you said you were like Northeast, right? Was that?
So I lived, that time of life I was in like SoCal. So Brian and I are both, so I lived all over as a kid growing up, but I lived in SoCal through like high school age, and Brian's from Poway. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I just find that, like, the people that, outside of my family, right, the people that I think have had the most effect on the trajectory of my entire life are all music people in my life. Mm-hmm. And I think you need that. Like, I wish I could tell certain people that aren't here for various reasons, like how important they were in me just becoming me. You know what I mean? Because it's a scary thing as a kid to fall in love with anything, let alone music. Oh yeah. and when you're in that position, it can feel like, you could probably just be stubborn and pig-headed like myself and be like, no, well, this is what I'm going to do. But it's still a little bit terrifying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and seeing it kind of in front of you and talking to people who've had whatever life they have with it, and they're fine, they're not some like druggie in your hometown or whatever. They're like working people playing music for a living, and it's just like a regular job, Mm-hmm. It can be a crazier idea. Like, where I'm from like a small town out of Cleveland. Like, my hometown still doesn't have like 3,000 people in it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Like, very small, very kind of like set in its ways kind of thing. And so, like, the idea that you can just kind of make livings doing things that weren't like farm work or factory work or something like that pie in the sky type stuff.
Yeah.
There are living legends walking around here that just go to the grocery store. They're just hanging out. They're just,
and all
like
that's
working.
great. Like, don't give me the living legend stuff. That's awesome.
Right.
But it's like, there's something to like, so for me, like, I was, I fell in love with music when I was probably 12, 13, somewhere around there. I'd taken guitar lessons for years, but it was just something I kind of did and didn't really like care. Like, my grandpa taught me guitar when I was super little, and I think I started taking lessons when I was like 8. And And then for whatever reason, again, I think that time is where it generally kind of falls for most of us, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember, so I started going to School of Rock out in SoCal, and it was run by this guy named Ron Weaver, who just passed a few years ago, and he had the most hodgepodge, like it was this thing was just held together by, like, you know, just chewing gum and scotch tape, and, like, you know what I mean, like, but had like the greatest fucking crew of people there, that, again, like I said, are a huge part of that group of people really helped form me and who I was as a person. And, and I remember, like, when he passed away, not that long ago, I hadn't talked to him in quite a few years. It'd been a while since I'd seen Ron. But I remember thinking, like, one, it was just a bummer he was gone, because any time anyone leaves like that, you think, yeah, shit, I wish I had more time with that person. But I remember thinking, like, that guy has no idea, or maybe he did, I don't know, has no idea the impact he had on, I can think of a handful of us who, from that school, who I'm still friends with, who, like, our entire life now is not music. You know, there's about, you know, 6, 7, 8. Riley Hoover, one of my college roommate, who I knew since, like, middle school, high school. He's a buddy of Brian of mine. Like, there's a handful of us people that I know our lives took a completely different course because of this one dude. Yeah. Who was like, who loved Ron to death, was not the best businessman, but was like, fuck it, I'm gonna open a School of Rock, you know, like, hell yeah. Like, and I think about that probably more than I should, because I just think that's such a beautiful thing, because you're constantly, the world is those stories, just infinite, like, you know what I mean? Just that's all that we're dealing with.
And that's with everything you're passionate about, too. Exactly. That's, like, for us, it's music. For some people, it's cooking. It's
sorry
dancing.
for that diatribe, but I just
this is a place for diatribes. This is a podcast. No, totally. And I think, just as far as, like, think about this, I think it's one of those things where the idea of just humanizing the goals that you want as just actual goals that you can do, and it's not just to, like, go out and party, you know, like that's kind of like the stereotype among, like, your folks or whatever, and you tell them, you get into music, like, oh, you just want to go out and have a lot of free beer and party all the time, you know. It's like, I play the trombone, you know, like, it's, clearly it's not for that sort of thing.
Like, Mom, I want to get laid.
But, you know, like, I felt so separate from music for a while, just because, geographically speaking, even, like, there was stuff going on in Northeast Ohio, of course, and, you know, local music is what makes the world go round. That's what's happening in most of the world most of the time. But you can still kind of feel like, oh, well, you know, we're just doing this on the side, you know, like, how important is it to you, kind of thing. So being able to drive 8 hours out of that and see there's this ecosystem, you drive 10 more hours to Austin and that's their thing, you know, like, music on a larger scale and actually doing it for a living, it's not only realistic, you can do it, and you know, you'll still feel regular the next day, you know, you're not going to feel like some enlightened person just because you play music all the time, you know. It's just slightly more fulfilling work than you're doing most of the time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Dude, I think this might have been the most overdue podcast we've had on this show.
I was willing to wait another 50 episodes, you know, too, at first.
We'll every 50 we'll check back in and see how we're doing, you know what I mean?
Man, episode 150 is going to go crazy.
There we go.
I'm going to be a lot more full of myself later on.
It's gonna, you're next. I want to see a big ego next time.
Chains, sunglasses. We had our first full sunglasses episode the other day.
Zach told me about that.
That was quite entertaining. We had full on sunglasses.
That was a good time.
Well, we're gonna one up on the next one. Fur coats. We'll get some cheap fake fur coats for everybody.
I'm gonna get like Roosic podcast. I don't have my fingers, but like maybe like we'll get like Roosic podcast on all my knuckles.
Dude, right at the camera, do one of those.
Yeah, there you go. Hell yeah,
sick.
Dude, I'm so glad you did this, man. This was a ball.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. Of course. Cool. That was awesome.
So, do you like a sign off? Is there like a music out or something?
Oh, there we go. We need like hand signals. That's what we need. and like
Yeah.
gang signs.